I'm so tired of people defending Soreseal. I saw it a lot more back in the early days of the game, and for a short while I even thought it was a good talisman myself. But we've gone too far as a community and learned too much to keep pretending this talisman is good, and I'm still hearing people do exactly that. I'm still seeing this new trap all over the Elden Ring build subreddit. I've heard all the arguments and none of them are well thought out. I even got into a debate with Only Waifu over whether or not it's more useless than Verdigris Discus in PvP. We agreed they're both worse than an empty slot, but which one was worse is the question. They wanted to test it out in some duels, and despite me being so bad at PvP that it wouldn't be an accurate test anyway, I accepted because I thought it'd be fun. The tests were inconclusive. So today I'll be breaking down the math, all the dirty details about Radagon Soreseal and Elden Ring's PvE, the arguments for why it can be good in certain situations, and the arguments for why it's usually bad in others. The reason we're not talking about Marika's Soreseal is because by the time you get it, you're already way too high level for it to be useful. And the reason we're only talking about PvE is because I clearly need more experience in PvP before I can make accurate judgments on equipment in that format. Just in case you've been living under a rock, this talisman can be found really early game right next to the dragon everyone recommends killing for free runes. It gives you +5 in 4 different stats: Vig Newtons, Endurance, Strength, and Dexterity. The drawback is that you take 15% more damage. At first glance, this sounds like an incredible trade, similar to Prisoner's Chain in Dark Souls 3, except unlike Dark Souls 3, this talisman is misleading in its effects. Not only is the drawback significantly stronger, but the stats literally do less for you than they did in Dark Souls. Vigor is the only mathematically significant boost here, with Soreseal actually increasing your bulk at really low levels. But it's only going to do that when it's low enough for the damage increase to not overtake the extra health you're getting. And when you're below that point, your build is usually already bad. Only Waifu actually just made a video on how much it sucks to have a small health bar, and you have to be in that state just for Soreseal to not start nerfing you. Now, it's fairly obvious that since levels have depreciating bonuses the higher you go, the best use case possible for Soreseal is really low levels, possibly even level 1. So we'll talk about a level 1 build first. Let's say you're using a relatively strong level 1 weapon, like Starfist. It's not my personal favorite, but the community really likes it. At the absolute minimum stats, the highest damage you can get is with either Magic, Flame Art, or Sacred Affinity. Cold is up there too if you take Frostbite into account. Oh, but Seagull, those use split damage and split damage is weaker. Wrong. Despite defense applying twice for split damage, the base damage for elemental affinities is often so high that it's still going to do more damage in the end before negation gets involved. Split damage is only something you gotta worry about when you're capable of reaching the same AR with a single type. Anyways, let's pretend you're not using any of those objectively better affinity options because Soreseal is better for physical affinities, right? So let's say you're level 1 with an Omen Smirk Mask. Standard affinity gives you 296 AR, which is as high as you can get on pure physical without anything else. Put on Soreseal and now you have 320. Ooh, a whopping 8% boost in AR. Now it's worth noting that this doesn't necessarily mean 8% more damage, because this happens before defense is calculated, making it a little more than that. For the attack everyone spams with these weapons though, is usually about a 10% damage boost. If only there were any other talisman that could give you about the same or more for no drawback. And okay, I get it. Multiplicative stacking is a thing, and it's worth noting that you can use Soreseal with all those other options. But you've only got 4 slots, so that's only an argument when there's less than 4 other damage increasing options for your build. On this weapon alone, just spamming jump attacks, there's already at least 4 talismans applicable to the same build that boost your damage by 15% or more. So Soreseal is already often outclassed as a damage talisman even as low as level 1. And that's not even counting the other options to increase stats that make this talisman boost damage by even less. The only arguments you have left to use Soreseal, even at this level, is either for the increased bulk or meeting requirements for certain items. Both of these arguments are inconsistent at best. If you are level 1 or otherwise a very low level, you shouldn't expect too much of either one of these things, Soreseal or no Soreseal. High stat requirements don't necessarily indicate that an item will be stronger. A lot of the best weapons in the game are usable without much stat investment, and the few stats you do need, it's not like there's no way to get them without slapping on a Soreseal. You've got Godric Great Rune and Grafted Greatsword, both giving you +5 in everything, You've got the not tiers giving you plus 10 in whatever you need, helmets that can give various powerful stat boosts, there's even consumables that boost your stats now. I mean, here I am wearing full armor and using Giant Crusher at level 1, and I'm still not using a single talisman. Then for bulk, why are you expecting to last more than a hit or two at level 1? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm usually the tank build kind of guy, and it's not impossible to tank at level 1, but why is that something you're trying to do? That's an unbelievable waste of time and energy since your minimum damage is way higher than your minimum HP. You could make a bunch of significant strides that will make your build as tanky as humanly possible at level 1 just to survive maybe one strong hit in late game, or, hear me out, you can just use Uplifting Aromatic to survive that hit and build your character for damage instead. Or you could put on a decent shield. Come on. Not to mention just how many different boosts you can get going for pure glass cannon build. Personally, if I have to choose between living a single hit or getting 57% more damage, I'll just take the damage. Given all this, there's only one actually good reason to use Soreseal. It's easy and early. You can find it pretty much right when starting the game if you know where to look, which is where most players who watch YouTube are going to go right away in a new playthrough anyway, and is going to do its job, as mediocre as it is, all the time. There's nothing to cast, nothing to eat, drink, no conditions that need to be met. It's just something you can equip and forget about, because even though it's never the best talisman for your build, it's always going to be a helpful one no matter what you're doing, at least in the early game. But how early are we talking exactly? Let's move the goalpost to a point where Soreseal is basically the only talisman we have. We're a brand new player who got it right away, and we're finding out when's a good place to drop it. Well, as Only Waifu very intelligently put out in their video, Vegetarian is mathematically the most important stat to level in the early game, since you actually don't need any weapon scaling to do good damage. One could reasonably argue that, with few exceptions, all your early levels should go into Viglets. Because, well, they should. So how many levels do you need to have before Soreseal actually starts nerfing your bulk? Well, I charted the HP values in a spreadsheet, taking into account Soreseal's damage increase, and the answer is 38. It's 38. When are you gonna hit 38 Vickies if you're leveling right? Under level 40, no matter what your starting class is. Did you know that cheesing Grail, without any boosts to rune gain, will give enough runes to at least hit level 30? That's what I'm freaking talking about! The moment you get it, it's already just a few levels away from being nothing more than a mediocre damage talisman. Heaven forbid you find a stronger one or use an elemental affinity that deals more damage without Soreseal than a physical one deals with it, or you're just using a weapon that doesn't have a lot of scaling to begin with. All of these situations wind up with Soreseal just sitting there doing basically nothing for you, and eventually worse than nothing. In an actual fresh playthrough, if you're playing optimally, you're going to use this talisman for maybe a half an hour at most, and it'll be because it's one of the only talismans you have, or you're using it so you can equip the weapon that lets you cheese Grail. In a level 1 environment, you're usually going to use this talisman because it's easier to work with, not because it's optimal. If you're level 50 or higher in a normal playthrough, you don't want to equip this at all. You would literally be better off with an empty slot unless your stat spread is already horrendous. So, in conclusion, Soreseal is a decent talisman when your build is already garbage, but that's about all it can do. Now's your cue to pretend you were only defending this talisman because you like challenging yourself. That's it for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, double check if you're subscribed, comment again for no reason, you know, do the algorithm crap.